As we used to say in the 60s. It's great to see so many good friends that I haven't seen in a long time. I would say old friends, but at our age we don't use those types of words anymore. But today, what you see right here, I'm going to kind of dial into the younger coaches in the neighborhood, if you don't mind. And so, guys, we've been asked to believe that the best recruiters are going to be the ones that always win championships. And I understand that you need those horses in the corral for the jockey to ride. But I do understand that if you lined up 8 thoroughbreds and let them run, the one with the best training is going to cross the finish line first, without a doubt. And so, you want to be a better coach, become a better teacher. Bobby Knight once said that the finest teachers in any college campus in America, 2 or 4 year schools, are going to be coaches. Okay? Without a doubt, they're best teachers. And one of the reasons I think why is because it's the most complete teaching known to mankind. Body, mind, emotion, and soul. There is no other topic on that campus that is encompassing that holistic approach. Johnny Wooden once said that all the sport-specific knowledge in the world is useless without the tools to actually teach it. Yogi Berra kind of paraphrased that, said, what good's being smart if you can't pass it on? And so today, it's all about teaching. It's all about teaching. And so I'm going to start with just a couple of pregame thoughts, and then we're going to talk about working with the 2 year school individuals. There is some common sense coaching, which is passed down from my daddy a long time ago, and an important message at the end. Please slow me down if I get too fast. This is 90 minutes of stuff packed into a 50-minute time period. Okay? And I do use a lot of baseball examples. I apologize, that's my background. I did coach my daughter's 8-year-old soccer team once, but it took me 2 weeks to realize that there wasn't a blue line in offsides. However, guys, the handouts that you have is for a 2-hour presentation, so there's some things that I will skip over. Okay? For starters, a little pregame chat. Guys, coaching is not about you. What you know, who you know, where you're from, or what you've done. It has nothing to do with your title at all. I want you to hear one of the great philosophers of our time. There, look, come on, baby. Do the hanky-panky for me.
Kidding? It's not about muscle. It's simple physics. Calculate the velocity v in relation to the trajectory t in which g, gravity, of course, remains a constant. It's not complicated.
Now, who are you again?
George Stanton, assistant to the traveling secretary.
You're the guy who put us in that Ramada in Milwaukee.
Want to talk about hotels? You want to win some ball games?
You won the World Series.
6 games.
So what coaching is all about is your student athletes. It's about their development, their growth, their best interest. And a lot of times, even when you have to bounce an athlete out of your program for whatever discipline situation, you need to consider their best interest. When you look at this, guys, number 2, you're not entitled to a single thing. It's not the word rap I don't want to use, but a lot of times I hear the younger coaches have a sense of entitlement. Okay, well, you build it, you create it, you earn it, and then you can turn around and celebrate it. Bottom line, guys, your coaching position was built on the legacy of your predecessors. All that means is somebody paid the price for you to have the position that you're in right now. Bottom line. Okay? A couple of years back, I had a class of 35 or 40 students, and I don't even know what the subject matter was, but I asked anybody in that class, male or female, to raise their hand and give me just a 3-minute dissertation or explanation of Title IX. And not a single person in that class was able to define what Title IX was all about. Guys, I went to the largest high school in the state of Washington. We had 860 grads. Try to sit through that graduation. Okay? Well, you look at my yearbook in 1973 from Shadle Park High School, we had gymnastics, women's gymnastics, we had women's golf, and we had women's tennis. My good friend and colleague, Irene Matlock, our former volleyball coach, went to the University of Washington many years ago. Purple and gold, right? She played volleyball at the U of W, and their uniforms were pink and powder blue. Okay? They were forced to have punch and cookies with their opponents after the games. You should hear her talk about that one. However, guys, somebody paid the price to afford those opportunities. I have 2 daughters. My oldest daughter is the head girls basketball coach at Archbishop Murphy in North Seattle. Okay? She was able to play 3 sports in high school. Where we're going with this is, don't lose sight of your history. That's the bottom line. Have a little bit of respect and a little bit of gratitude as you approach that history. Right? All right, so let's just talk about our own craft. Number 1, know what's in your control as a teacher and as a coach. Not everything is. My good friend Marty O'Brien, longtime basketball coach at Ephrata High School, once told me that of every group that you talk to, 1/3 is going to listen to everything you have to say. Second third is going to start, kind of fade with the wind, and the final third, they miss the boat to life altogether. And you cannot control that. Okay? When you look at skill instruction, there's 3 primary variables to learning when you work with kids. Okay? Number 1 is the nature of the skill, the state of the learner. Either one of those do you have control over. You don't know if a young lady broke up with her boyfriend before they came to practice. You don't know if they have financial difficulties. They got a 0.0 on a test. Okay? You have very little control over those first 2, but you have direct control over your method of instruction. Okay? Number 2, athletes are indeed like what I have in my hands. Okay? And they can press the stop button anytime they want to. Bottom line. Okay? And that stop button is pressed when you have what we refer to in education as learning blocks. They're learning blocks. Well, what are you saying? If they're discouraged, boom, shuts down. Effort is gone. Kind of dawned on me a few years back that when I looked at my beginning goals prior to our baseball season, and then I looked at our end results at the end, only one of 2 words lies in the middle. It's either work or discouragement. They both won't fit. Right? Fearful and intimidation. When I was a graduate assistant at Eastern, I was just kind of fed up to here with called third strikes in baseball. At least swing the bat. That's kind of why they brought it up to home plate. Right? So I instituted a physical cause and effect, a penalty. What do you think happened? Our strikeouts doubled and tripled because they were swinging at anything within a square block minimum at home plate. Isolated, guys, that kills team. That does kill team. And by the way, there's a huge difference between assessment and judgment. They are not the same words. Okay? My uncle was walking true story by the way, my uncle was walking my cousin down the aisle prior to her wedding. I'm 10 years of age sitting in the pew. Okay? This is a guy that I absolutely adored. Halfway down, he liked to drink. He passes out. True story. I'm saying far out. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. My mom, she's crying. My dad's going, holy Toledo. It is right out of a movie. They're dragging him by his ankles to the back of the church to sleep it off. Okay? But I still to this day remember, now by the way, he was the commander-in-chief of the entire Washington State Air National Guard at that time. I adored this guy, but it crushed me to hear all the value judgments that were going on around me at 10 years of age. Later I knew the guy's dying of a terminal disease and everybody around me is making value judgments about it. It doesn't make any sense. However, guys, you could condemn an athlete to the pit of hell just by labeling them. You're not there, you're not paid to do that. Big difference between assessing their talent and judging them who they actually are. If they're bored, by the way, why do you yawn? Well, to increase the oxygen flow. When you are bored, there's actually a reduction of oxygen to a certain portion of the brain. Creativity and motivation enhance that oxygen. I want you to meet somebody real quick. This is Lynn Kelly. She's an elementary school PE specialist in the state of Ohio. Okay? This young lady came into an environment where they're low social income area. Okay? And when you say that, what are you saying? They could not afford summer dance programs, music programs, summer sports camps, those types of things. But she did notice that they absolutely loved jump rope on the playground. So she went out of her own pocket, hey, welcome to elementary school teaching, and bought 2 jump ropes. She recruited, through a lot of pain, 2 volunteers. She taught them a little routine, and they entertained at a parent-teacher night, an open house. And that was the birth of
Longtime phys ed teacher Lynn Kelly started the team 20 years ago.
I just wanted to give the kids some sort of an outlet for their creative talents.
Jump rope was an easy pick for Kelly, the recess time favorite, but with a twist. After some time, the Kings High School athletic director gave the team its first break.
He gave me a reserve girls game, which there might have been 10 people there, but they did get a standing ovation.
Crowds of 10 to arenas full of tens of thousands. The Firecrackers regularly perform at college basketball games and most recently an NBA game.
A little bit of creativity could change a lot of lives, without a doubt, and she's proven that. Okay? Where are we at? There we go. Number 3, use the tools that God gave you. You see these two young men right here, not exactly young, but you've got Bobby Knight and Mike Krzyzewski. On the right, I think you're probably aware that Krzyzewski played for Bobby Knight at West Point. He's got, Mike Krzyzewski, every reason in the world to have copied Bobby Knight's personality. But those two are polar opposites. Both of them won national championships. Guys, filter what you borrow. Steal anything and everything you can in coaching, but filter it with your own personality. Okay? Number 4, remember what it was like to be an athlete. My dad always told me that once you forget that, a lot of bad things start happening in our profession. Okay? What an athlete goes through off the field, what an athlete goes through on the field, the emotional setbacks that they deal with. Never forget your past experiences with teachers and coaches. Okay? Raise your hand if you've ever been in a high school or college classroom where you knew that instructor was not prepared. Yeah, don't say this session, please. That happened to me in grad school, and I don't talk like this, but it so pissed me off. I paid for grad school out of my own pocket. Since that point, I have steered in a different direction. That pain caused me to change direction. And all I'm saying is you can walk in any given day, and I can tell you to the minute what we're going to be going through in a health or first aid class. Okay? Patience teaches patience, big one. If you want your athletes to demonstrate patience in their own development, you've got to show them a little bit of that patience in return, without a doubt. Understand one important thing, that word setbacks. My pop always used to say, it's never a mistake unless you do it twice. He said that on my first driving day when I came home 2 hours late, but we don't have to go there. Anyway, long story short is that you've got to allow them an opportunity to learn from those mistakes. As a baseball coach, I hated having a player, once he punched out, sprint back to the dugout. Because what happens? I want them to reflect on what just occurred. Can we make an adjustment? Plus, are you really in that much of a hurry to get back to your teammates? But we don't need to go there. I was enjoying a hot dog one day, watching 2 kids play in Lewis, Navajo, and something fascinating in front of me occurred. This is the very first pitch of the very first game, the very first batter. And the pitcher threw it like 50 feet, bounced it off home plate, right in front of home plate. And the kid swung and missed. Leadoff hitter, big deal. Strike 1. The coach is coming out of his mind, screaming and yelling at the kid for not having patience. Are you kidding me? Guys, know when to pull back. See that megaphone? Know your players and when to pull back. Anytime I made a visit to the mound, and by the way, there's pitchers and then there are athletes. They're not the same, okay? But the bottom line is that you've got to know who you can get into and who you can have to pull back on. The whole story is it's about your athletes, okay? Number 6, look, listen, and feel for skill. Simple truism that by age 6, you develop, everybody in this room, a dominant learning modality. Ooh, big words. A dominant learning style, okay? The majority of our learners in the United States are visual learners. We're all from Missouri, the show me state, okay? Well, what are you saying? What I'm saying is that they learn best through their eyes. Here's the thing. We oftentimes label athletes as non-learners or they're uncoachable, when in fact they may not be a verbal learner. By the way, it drives me nuts in college. What do we do in a college classroom? We lecture. What are you doing? I'm lecturing. That's what I do. I lecture. Guys, the majority of our society is visual learners, okay? But understand that a learning style is not an ability. It is nothing to do with their IQ. It is simply a door that enters their brain, period. Okay? And it all enters through different avenues, but they enter and the final destination is in one room, okay? Here's the bottom line. You can assess this, you can test your athletes, but it's expensive and it's not time valuable, okay? So when you approach teaching skill development, always use all three forms of instruction. By the way, a little tip, if an athlete ever tells you that they can't feel what you're talking about, what type of learner do you think they are? Yeah, they're a kinesthetic learner, absolutely. Guys, for auditory learners, use multiple rephrases. Get in the habit of saying in other words, okay? And use examples that they can actually relate to, okay? For visual learners, they need to see it and they need to see themselves doing it. But warning, watch your words. A visual learner makes pictures out of the words that you hear, okay? If you go too fast or too long of an explanation, what happens? It goes dimmer, 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 poof. You ever been in a classroom where the instructor, you understood what they were talking about, and the more words they used, it just went poof. If you just would have shut up half an hour ago, I would have understood it. Well, guys, I use a lot of keyword instructions. Keywords are one word that describe an entire sequence of thought. For example, baseball example, when we were working on hit and run, we want to get on top of the baseball and hit it on the ground, okay? Because you usually have a bag of donuts that's running that you have to protect, okay? Well, what are you saying? Why not just repeat the word top, 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 top? Well, what happens is a visual learner understands what you're trying to describe to them. Keywords are really, really good. And by the way, just words of advice, eliminate distractions, and you'll see pictures of that here in a second. And if you can't demonstrate, don't. You know, some of the best national baseball coaches I've ever met never played the game. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we talked about coaching not about you. That's a common mistake for a lot of young coaches. They think that athleticism translates over into coaching. Couldn't be further from the truth, okay? Well, if you can't demonstrate, don't do it. Okay? Now, I want you to watch this and let me know what you learned, visual learners, after you watch this.
If you write this down, it really helps. What I try to do, I try to flat load my feet so I can snap load my power package. That way I can amplify both lag and drag pressure through impact fix. As long as my number 2 power accumulator doesn't break down, I can reach maximum centrifugal force with minimum pivotal resistance. You see, the pivot is the utilization of multiple centers to produce a circular motion for generating centrifugal force on an adjusted plane, plus the maintenance and balance necessary to promote the two-line delivery path. See, block is geometrically oriented linear force. It involves a physical muscular thrust and a geometry of the circle. You can divide the golf swing into 24 basic components, each having between 12 and 15 variations. Now, when you think of all this, and you get it all set, hopefully you'll hit shots like this.
So what did you learn? Yeah, absolutely. By the way, that's why I can't hit a golf course, because I watch this too many times. Guys, tactical learners, touch learners, kinesthetic learners, they need to get a feel for it. Like I said, if you ever have an athlete that says, I can't really feel what you're talking about, then you kind of have a clue of exactly where they're coming from. It's almost important sometimes to physically force them through the range of motion, regardless of what it is, okay? All right, so, don't demo if you can't.
Find it? All right, another one, just like that. Right in the old bucket. Good toss. See, that's much better. That was good. You had your shoulder pointed, you kept your eyes on your target. Let's do it again, watch me.
The durability of the Volkswagen Passat. Pass down something you will be grateful for.
Oh yeah. Number 7, one step at a quality time. And that's all that means is that we tend to get in an overcoaching mentality because we have enthusiasm and passion for our topic, right? And so we throw 50 different coaching points at it at one point in time. I have 2 daughters that I raised. One's 33, the other's 32. I'm going to be a granddaddy next month. Well, here's the thing. I had opportunity. When they were puppies, we had one television, one remote. We lost the remote. We replaced it, and then the next week we found the original remote. 2 daughters, 2 remotes, 1 TV. Try following the plot of a half-hour TV show while the channel changes going. That's exactly what an athlete contends with when you throw 50 different coaching points at them in one session. Okay? Guys, one step at a time helps us to realize we need to stay away from overcoaching. Okay? Take it apart, it will reassemble itself. Guys, I'm talking to very intelligent people here. As I mentioned prior to, the best instructors on any campus in America are coaches, without a doubt. I truly believe that. Okay? You don't need me up here to show you all the drills. Take that motion pattern down, break it down, and actually replicate those types of things. I want you to see something real quick. There was a young man that came out of my office about 4 or 5 years ago that played basketball for us. Okay? It was about 7 o'clock on a Friday. I was going to shut her down. Somebody was in the gym. I was going to shut it down and turn the lights out, lock it up. I saw something pretty interesting. The young man had this cart, and by the way, it's an old volleyball cart, okay, that the wheels broke. The back wheels broke. Our equipment manager at the time replaced the wheels, but he ordered the wrong ones. They looked like my 64 Falcon Sprint when I was in high school, all jacked up in the rear ends. See, the younger coaches are going, however, what this young man was doing, I thought was fascinating. So I left the gym lights on and I kind of hid. He rolled that out to the three-point line. He started the basketball at the highest end. He let it go. He came off of this cart like he was coming off of the screen. He took the pass right next to the cart. He's now got a hand in his face, and he was shooting a J at three-point line. I mean, if an 18, 19-year-old kid can figure out how to break a drill down, I think you can. Okay? And by the way, just a personal note, I always felt like warm-up was a waste of my time. And I don't mean that arrogantly. It was a waste of my time. The whole goal for warm-up is to what? To elevate core temperature, is it not? A lot of really cool physiological things occur then. Well, what are you saying? For me to stand there and watch a kid stretch is I mean, you got to be on drugs to do that, right? So I took 5 or 6 of the most commonly reoccurring skill sets and things that you need in baseball, and I worked them into that actual warm-up. I mean, now think about this. Why run? Why not run down the hot box? And so have a ball in your hand and actually do your warm-up there, touching first base. Okay? All of those little things, those little high-stress things in coaching, just work them into your warm-up. Okay? All right, last couple things here. Set the stage for team talks, really important. Have a purpose and move on. Guys, understand, coaching is not about you and how eloquent you can speak. Have a purpose and move on. Talking to a group, minimize your distractions. And by the way, you see where I'm at? You don't have people behind me to distract you. I see most of your eyes dialed in right here. But when you're standing in a gym and the entire open end of the gym's behind you, there's so much that can distract that person. So be on stage. I used to put myself in the dugout and put the players on the outside. Guys, we live at Spokane Falls. We're in the final approach pattern for both Fairchild as well as Spokane International. There's a few distractions going on. Consider the attention span of all of us, including an 18, 19, and 20-year-old young lady or boy, okay? Or man, excuse me, okay? But the bottom line is, guys, there's a reason in interviews why they change camera angles, they pan, okay? They zoom, they do all those things every 8 seconds so they don't have you changing channels, okay? Consider that, and again, have a purpose and move on. George Lucas once said, a special effect in a movie without a purpose is a pretty boring thing, okay? All right, look at the bag of donuts on the left, okay? You think he's dialed into his coach? You guys see that, okay? See, look where the coach is standing. He's in the open end of the gym. Guys, be on stage and remember to reduce those distractions, okay? Manage your mental health. Guys, here's something to think about, and I really want you to take this home with you. When you go online and take an online stress assessment, and you know that stress is the #1 killer in our country because it creates more inflammation than any other aspect of our life. And inflammation is what causes cancer and heart disease. Those are bad words, okay? What are you saying? Most online stress assessments measure the major aspects of life: a divorce, a death in the family, changing a job, moving, all of those things. When in fact, latest research now shows that the smaller day-to-day hassles are really truly what causes most health detriments. You know why? Because it elevates our cortisol level. Oh, why are you talking about this stuff? Well, spell the word stressed, Backwards. Say it. Desserts, without a doubt. Okay? So it drives us to the carbs, it drives us to the sugars, those types of things, and it's an never-ending struggle. Guys, you can do yourself a favor, and this is my list. You can add to your list, okay? These are little things that cause me a lot of problems. For starters, I like to archive all my practices. Now, if you're in my era, a baby, okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking old printed forms, scanning them into a flatbed scanner. There's tons of apps out there that convert that to a text document, okay? But archive those, so it's not a day-to-day sit down and write out. Our women's basketball coach, Bruce Johnson, one of my best friends in this world, still handwrites all of his own practices. What are you? So he's kind of mouse challenged, but the thing is that he does that. That's a stress in my mind. We actually developed skills checklists because, as Yogi Berra says, as we get older, don't forget, as we get older, we forget. Well, what are you saying? I use those skills checklists and I prioritize what skills are most common in baseball and what skills are most common to win. Okay? And we incorporated that percentage-wise into a practice set. By the way, I got two really close high school buddies that are airline pilots. I think one just retired, but they drove the heavies. They drove the big ones: 747s, 777s, and 767s. Well, what do you say? They used to actually let me ride cockpit with them. Long time ago, before 9/11, they did, okay? Where are you going with this? Guys, they've been flying for 30 years. They have a checklist in front of them, a pre-flight checklist. And everything that they read off of every line, the co-pilot says check, as she or he is checking the gauges. Does that make sense? Well, where are you going with it? Why don't we do that in coaching? It just doesn't make any sense. Keep your office organized and your keys in the same location. Lost keys are not only cause, but also a fact of stress, without a doubt. Okay? Who's ever lost their keys during the season? Oh, you're on drugs. You have too. I know you have. The primary game stressors, guys, these are pet peeves of mine. We work right into the practice setting. Like I mentioned before, there's athletes and then there's pitchers. You know you can lose in baseball a championship in 2.5 minutes. That's the average length of time. It's a walk, a hit batter, 3-run jack, and it's over. All the work that you have. So it used to be a pet peeve of mine to get somebody loose in that short period of time. Okay? Anyway, worked right into the practice set. Okay? Keep up to date and accurate records. I was in the back of the Pepco All Sports Clinic, sitting talking to a handful of coaches, one of which was Mike Krzyzewski. And one of the high school coaches asked him, "Do you deal with parent issues?" And a couple of the college guys looked at this high school guy like, "Well, that's a stupid question." It was a legit question, and he does. And he says, the key is quality records. Reach in, pull the file out. Yeah, your kid can't play. This is my advice to you. Okay? But guys, you can only do that through actually good records. Clear expectation, head coaches, to your assistants. They want to be coached as well. That's paramount, absolutely paramount. Then you can hold them accountable for their actions, but only if they have a roadmap of how to get there. Okay? By the way, carry a voice app on your phone or just a handheld voice recorder. When you're watching a scrimmage and those types of things, a lot of times in sports like baseball, we don't necessarily have the luxury of videotaping these things. So to remind yourself that, hey, we missed a cut here, we did this, it's a good tool. Never take things for granted, guys. Assumptions cause stress. They cause stress. And assumptions will get you beat any day of the week. Every year you start your basketball practices, soccer practices, softball practices, baseball practices, those kids have to relearn that sport. Okay? So don't ever take it for granted that they don't. All right, last couple, we'll move it as quick as I can. Teach accountability, guys, that's a huge thing. In fact, it's really big to me. Are you their friend or are you their coach? My oldest daughter was playing in a basketball game her senior year. It was a regional playoff game down at Gonzaga University, Meade against Central Valley. She dove on the floor for a loose ball, bumped heads with her opponent, and she was out for 3 minutes on the floor. Now, I was a dad that never got involved with my kids' sports other than to help them. Okay? I used to always stay at the top of the gym so I wouldn't offend somebody if I happened to say something out there. What the hell is she doing out there? Okay? Well, the bottom line is, this is the only exception. That was at the end of the first half. Start of the second half, she's with her starting 5, checking back in. Okay? And I said, no, that's not going to happen. And so I went all the way from the top of the gym, all the way down, tapped her coach on the shoulder and said, no, she's on the shelf the rest of the day. Okay? 2004, 2003, guys, we were really not totally grasping second impact syndrome. Okay? We just weren't. And so my daughter did not speak to me for 2 weeks afterwards. I'm all right with that. I'm her dad, I'm not her friend. Okay? She was throwing up, physically sick for 2 of those 3 weeks. Isn't that amazing? The bottom line, guys, is are you a coach or are you a friend? Do they call you by your first name, or is there a separation? Do they say coach? Okay? That's not old school. By the way, is college athletics a right or a privilege? You have to sit back and discuss that with yourself. Okay? Being on time, you can teach that. Being late is, to me, the most disrespectful thing on the face of the planet. Carol had to laugh this morning because I talked at 10 and I was here at 7:30. She goes, why are you here? No, I'm just kidding. However, that's disrespectful to be late. And you can teach those things in your practice set. Please and thank you, guys. It's legalized brown nosing. Why? That's not old school. It's going to help them find success as they go on at their age. And by the way, I stole PI, which is an acronym for posture, interest, and eyes from Steve Hertz at Gonzaga University, and I've held on to it since. Listening skills are not taught any longer. How many times do you ask a question to an athlete or a student, or they ask you a question, and when you start to explain it, the answer, they start asking you 3 other questions. Listening skills are a big thing. Teach the importance of school. And by the way, guys, not to bore you to tears, I had an athlete named Eric Hansen, just a great kid that we had that struggled mightily his freshman year in academics in school. His second year, he bumped it all the way up to a 3.5 to a 3.7. Great kid. And he said the most remarkable thing. He said, Coach, I can't believe how much you can learn just by going to class. By the way, I won't spend a lot of time on this. Your attitude defines their action. Sooner or later, jump down to the yellow. Your athletes association does breed assimilation. Who they hang with, they do become. They're going to follow your mannerisms. They are going to follow what you do, how you handle success, how you handle failure, those types of things. Okay? Now, I want you to see this little quote. There's a reason for it. Jim Valvano said, my father gave me the greatest gift anyone could ever give. He believed in me. Okay? My dad used to hang out down the left field line at home games, and he just watched the game. Simple guy. I mean, when he talked, you better listen, but he didn't talk a lot. I remember sitting in his office, and I apologize for this language before I even get to the story, but I remember sitting in his office playing with his old-time typewriter, and I didn't realize at the time he was actually firing one of his employees. Okay? And the guy came in and said, well, Howard, I don't understand it. And Dad just looked up at him. He says, well, Jerry, you're just not worth a shit. I said, I apologize for that language. But that defines my dad. After the games, he would wander down after I put the field to bed, and he would say, why did you hit and run in that situation? What are you thinking? Okay? And I just hated it. I hated it. 2 years after his death, uh-oh.
It's okay.
Can you still hear? Yeah. Your attention, please. 2 years after his death, I found myself in the third base coaching box looking down at the right or left field line and not seeing him down there. He used to give me all of these coaching points. At the very first year that he started to do it, I was too good for it. My ego didn't allow me to learn. Okay? My youngest daughter used to say, you're dupe it? Well, I would dupe it. Okay? Well, what are you saying, Coach? What I'm saying is I finally started to write these down. I have left roughly 30 Yogi Berra-isms, or in other words, Dad's sayings. Okay? I want to share just a handful of them with you, if I could. And again, this is a book I found about 6-7 years after I stopped coaching. Okay? Number 1, do the most with the fewest moves. Pretty simple stuff. Okay? We get so caught up into coaching all these different offensive and defensive schemes and all these different things in team sports, we forget about the simple stuff. I used to arrange our fall baseball practices to allow me the time to sit and watch our football staff. Dwight Poole, our head football coach at the time, 45-minute workout, start to finish. That was it. That was it. And most of the time they didn't even pad down. They had a helmet, they had a t-shirt, shorts, and it was perpetual, doggone it, run it again. But it was execution, execution, execution. And I patterned my baseball practices after that. Do the most with the fewest moves. It ain't never a mistake unless you do it twice. I already mentioned that one. Bob said that. Rick Majerus, basketball coach, St. Louis University as well as University of Utah, said the problem with education nowadays is we don't allow kids to fail. That is the #1 way we learn, is setbacks, without a doubt. Okay? Number 3, no single player is more important than a team. Dad used to preach that a lot, and that's important for you to understand. Okay? In 1987, we won our first NWAC championship in Yakima. Miners is in Yakima. That's why I'm a bag of donuts. So, however, guys, on the eve before we won it, we lost the semifinal game, which threw us into the losers bracket. Okay, we had to win 3 the following day. 12 midnight, I did a bed check. Okay, and 2 of my kids had been drinking, and so their parents lived staying like 3 doors down. I knocked on their door, I woke them up, I said, you got a choice. I said, either get your car, take them home, or I'll put them on a 2 o'clock in the morning bus out of Yakima to Spokane. They said, hey, put them on a bus, dude. We want to watch you win this thing. And it truly happened. I still to this day have no idea how they got from the bus depot home, okay? But the bottom line, guys, is that we went on and won it that year with backups. Those were 2 key elements in our starting arsenal. Okay? No single player dictates where the team goes. That's the bottom line. Number 4, Dad used to always say this, real pressure is putting food on the table. We tend to put so much pressure in athletics when in fact a single parent mom of 5 kids that can't afford a Christmas present is real pressure. We got swept by CDC one year. It didn't happen very often, but it did. And I was really down and out in Beverly Hills. I was just really feeling sorry for myself until I came to a stop. And I saw a young man in a wheelchair trying to navigate a non-handicapped accessible curb. And he tilted and he fell. Okay? And I helped him back up, got back in my truck, got home, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? I just got swept. Oh, big deal, we're in 2nd place now. Guys, real pressure again is putting food on the table. Number 5, the greatest compliment that you'll ever get come many years from now. We are into immediate gratification. All 3 of those guys at one time or another I butted heads with. And all 3 of them at one time or another called me here in the last 5 years. Now I coached those kids 30 years ago and said, Coach, I didn't like you when I played for you, but I got to tell you, I just want to say thank you. I get goosebumps right now. Okay? Well, here's the thing. Human nature, we want to plant a seed, right? We want to water it, we want to watch it grow, and we want to harvest it. We're into hurry up, praise me. And it doesn't happen in coaching. Okay? It just doesn't happen. So don't let that prevent you from planting that seed, because it's a huge thing. You never know who's watching. Dad used to say that. And by the way, on team sports that are here in front of me, why not take your athletes and put them in the stands? Take your coaches and your assistant coaches, your trainers and whatnot, go down on the floor or go onto the field and show them what that 10-year-old boy or girl sees when somebody throws a bat, when somebody drops an F-bomb out of the sky and those types of things. They see what actually that 10-year-old person could see. Right? By the way, talk to your kids about their reputation. You guys have all heard that. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to mess it up. Guys, Ryan Lochte, you will never remember that he won gold medals, but you'll remember his out of the pool antics. Right? Well, I spent about 5 years trying to get our board of trustees to a ball game. That's legalized brown nosing. Right? I talked to our CEO, our campus presidents, get out here, and they just, oh, we're too busy. Why is that? We've got meetings. Okay? Here's the thing. We were playing against Yakima in a crucial 3-game set. First inning, bases loaded. We're on offense. Picture this, please. Okay? We're on offense. First inning, bases are loaded. The 4-hole hitter hits a nice fly ball out to right center field. Catch, makes a nice catch. I tag the runner at third, scoring. We're up 1-0. I tag the runner at second, brought him to third. We're in good shape. We got first and third, 1 out. We're rolling. Not happening. Okay? They appeal the runner leaving early at third. Third base umpire goes, boom, brings him up. Okay? 2 outs. They appeal the runner at second, same umpire at third, brings him out. Everybody's exchanging sides, right? Are you picturing this? So I wander out. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. I wander out and said, hey, who's got the call at third? He said, well, I do. I said, I understand that. That's why they call you the third base umpire. Okay? I said, who's got the call at second then? He said, well, I do. I said, what, are you freaking Marty Feldman? And that happened. You're out of here, Scooter. And I look up, the first people I see are who? The board of trustees, both campus presidents, and the CEO, and they were not smiling, I can guarantee you. And by the way, frickin' was not the word that I used. Dad used to always say, let the pot cool before you eat, and that's really, really important. Try to take the emotions out of your voice at times, okay? Because oftentimes, have you ever made a life decision based on emotions? Does it ever turn out right? No, seriously, honey, I love you. Arousal level is a big word, and what happens is that you can't ever take back words. You can never take them back. And so once they're out, they are out. Think about that in post-game talks, okay? Butter your bread before you bite it, that's a big one. That just simply means have a positive before you rip on somebody, okay? Show them, hey, it's not who you are, it's what you just did. That's a huge difference, okay? Being a professional means do what they pay you to do. I was appalled. Our campus faculty had a meeting that they sat in this room and they debated what it meant to be a professional. And they finally came around to me and I said, doesn't it mean do what you're paid for? And they thought, well, you stupid, you're a PE guy. Guys, there's a reason why programs are dropped. It's because you don't do your job, okay? Being professional means following rules. I did not like the fact that Frank Bissoni did not allow chewing on our baseball field. I didn't like it at the time. Well, what do you mean? But I followed it because it was what I was paid to do. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? And again, there's a reason why programs are dropped, because we don't follow rules. Life's greatest compassion by unless you pay attention. Gigantic thought. Who you're looking at right there are all really close friends. Really close friends. They're mentors, they're people that I've worked with that taught me what it's like to be a professional, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. They all have one thing in common. They're no longer with us. Guys, you got to pay attention to the relationships, and I know that the following speaker is going to talk a little bit about that, but the bottom line, guys, is this: enjoy the ride, okay? It's not all about stress. You've heard that said, you never know how much somebody means to you until you lose them, okay? And that is true with every single one of those individuals. Last couple of things, and I'm almost done, guys. It's more than a game, much more than a game. Teach them good decisions. My job for years as a baseball coach was not necessarily how to turn double plays and pat them each other in the butt and say, oh, baby, okay? My job was to teach those kids how to become good teammates to each other. I know that sounds idealistic, you're from the 60s, aren't you, okay? But it's not. Guys, they didn't have my name across their chest. They didn't play for me, they didn't play for school, they played for each other. You talk to any military officer that's ever served, they will tell you the identical same thing. A military uniform has a patch to signify the team that they play for, right? But they go to war with each other. So guys, what I'm asking you, are your teammates strong enough to say, hey, you're not going to take this team down by your behavior? I talked to Jeff before this presentation, and he was talking about the exact same thing with his athletes. Is there any wonder why he won the NWAC championship? Okay, they took it and ran with it themselves, and that's what you have to teach them. Okay, you look at youth sports nowadays. Count the number of atta-girls or atta-boys you hear. Good job, good job. Little Johnny Jr. could be in the corner of a gym peeing on the wall, and mom and dad would say, very nice stream, good job. Very nice about yourself. Don't take the path of least resistance. For years, and I'm almost done. Here's the thing, guys. For years, I keep my door open on Monday, and some of the things that I hear the students talking about, dude, I was so wasted, I can't believe I did that, and everybody laughs. Okay? And then 2 weeks later, they're just really the first one surprised when that same person they're laughing at blows somebody away in a crosswalk because they've been drinking. You can teach good decision making. I want you to see this.
My name is Jacqueline Sabuedo. This is a picture of me before I was hit by a drunk driver, before the car caught fire, before 2 of my friends died, before I needed more than 40 operations, This is me when my life was just like anyone else in college. This is me after being hit by a drunk driver.
Don't drink and drive. Ever.
That's the young man that actually ran into her. What you're looking at right there is a pre-voted valedictorian of his class, 4.0 student, never been in trouble with the law, one bad decision. Went down for consecutive 7-year counts, 14 years right out of high school. And as he'll explain here in a second, he went from a football field on a Friday literally to a prison cell on Sunday. Okay?
I went from a football field on Friday to a prison cell on Sunday. That quick. Through the choices I made on one Saturday. And so it can happen. I had never been in any trouble before in my life. I had never gotten any DWIs or gotten in trouble with alcohol at all. But the one time that I made that horrible decision, and one time that I got in trouble, one time, it was devastating. And the fact that drinking and driving isn't a joke, it's not something to play around with. It's real, and these are the consequences. All of a sudden, you're in this whole new world, here you go, and you're by yourself. You're alone. And it's a shock. You always have a correctional officer telling you what to do and when to do it. Everywhere you go, you get strip searched, and make sure you're not bringing anything in or taking anything out where you're not supposed to take it. The lights come on at breakfast at 2 o'clock in the morning and stay on because people come and go. Lights out is at 10:30. It's definitely not like sleeping at home. It's a sparse lifestyle. I probably miss the most, I miss my family, my friends, people that I've known all my life. They've always been a top priority for me and something that I've always cared very deeply about. So that is probably the hardest thing to deal with.
You know, what's crazy is that you guys all have students and athletes that say, hey, coach, it's my life, I'll do whatever I want to. Well, it's hard to teach young men and young women that it's not your life. It really, truly is not, because you have individuals in your bleachers, in your auditorium, they're called family members and friends, that suffer when you're down and they celebrate your successes. Those types of things, when you make bad decisions. Do you think his family was impacted? I think so. How about her and her family? One bad decision, and you can teach these things to hold teammates accountable. So, question, one final question. Guys, when that 401 kicks in, when you guys are ready to retire, what are they going to remember about you? You ever stop and think about that as a person, as a colleague, a teammate? What seeds did you sow? Sometimes it does help when you set back and you look at your own personal goals and objectives to kind of re-energize you, okay? You know, it was funny, I was talking to Bobby from Walla Walla earlier, and she talked about being regenerized, and re-energized, I should say, and getting back after it, which is wonderful. However, guys, I want you to meet a young man by the name of Jeremy Williams, okay? Jeremy, I was first introduced to him on the show, not Home Improvement, but Makeover Home Edition. However, he's got ALS, football coach down in Greenville, Georgia. Okay? His advice to you, coach every season like it's your last, because it very well might be. Okay? He's kind of beating the odds, and I want you to listen to him.
A football coach battling his toughest opponent ever gets a helping hand from the incredible family that inspired The Blind Side.
Jeremy Williams is one of the most inspiring individuals I've ever met.
For the last 8 years, Jeremy has been the head football coach at Greenville High School. But 2 years ago, Jeremy was diagnosed with ALS, a degenerative neurological disease also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
The average length of disease in most people is about 2 to 4 years. It causes progressive weakness, loss of muscle, and eventually death.
Jeremy is determined not to give up without a fight. This past year, with weakened muscles and affected speech, Jeremy only missed 1 practice and led his Greenville Patriots to a perfect 11-0 season.
Like it saved me was running the walls or straight and tall, just fight through it and not give it up.
I can tell you from my family being in athletics, and a coach is one of the most important people that your children come in contact with. And here's someone like this man that's going through things that we can't even imagine with his health. You always hear when times get tough, the tough get going. Well, you know what? He lives by that.
He's going to prepare just like it's another year. He's going to do everything just like he's not sick. He's going to prepare to win a championship. And I know he's going to instill in those young men to do the same thing because he's a champion. I think he knows that each season gets closer to the end. Ultimately, he knows he's going to end up in heaven. His life on here is going to be over. His faith is what keeps him going. Everything that he lives for, everything that he coaches for, is so that God gets the glory. He's the most unselfish person who knows that he's dying. And there's nothing that man can do about it. I remember, man. Jeremy's dying for those around him who love him.
He's an inspiration to us all. Very proud to have been a part of your life. Glad you've been a part of mine, brother.
I love him. The norm. Give us that, brother.
The Jeremy Williams Award will be presented every year to the spring's most valuable player who, through his actions on the field, demonstrates determination, courage, and leadership every day in the same way Jeremy did while starting every game of his career and amassing the current record of most tackles by a defensive end.
Hero stands for heart. He's got a heart of a champion. He is for everyone who walks on this earth. He needs to have a hero in their life who stands for what's right. The R is for the respect that you have for someone who does that. And O is for the one.
Guys, regardless of what you believe in, there's three constants in life. Okay, one is your athletes want to be coached. There's not an athlete out there that doesn't. Number two, they want to be proud of their teammates. They want to be proud of their coaches when they step on that field or in that gym. And the third, they may forget much of what you taught them, but they ain't never going to forget how you taught them. Now, before I walk off stage, I have something to give a good friend. Scott, come on up here, please. As all of you knew, he was looking desperately for a clicker. I'm going to donate mine.
I stand relieved.
Scott, here's a case for